Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. President Trump's cabinet members have been officially sworn in and confirmed, all 21 of them. So now the real work can begin for we, the people. And Trump is like Elvis Presley. Let's show the retruth. There's actually a picture that President Trump put up. There we go. Half of him is himself, and the other half is Elvis Presley. As you know, Elvis Presley was the king of rock, and a lot of people say that President Trump is like the king. Look at him. He's getting everything done that he accomplished and said that he was going to do. But the president had a great jobs report in February, adding more manufacturing jobs to the workforce. Remember, under Joe Biden, manufacturing jobs were actually down in the workforce. Under President Trump, a lot of these companies are coming back to America. They want to sell their products here, made and make them in the USA, which is adding more jobs to we, the people. And of course, as you know, ICE, Thomas Homan, Kristi Noem are removing the illegal criminals and the illegals that are working in the workforce and getting rid of them, especially in our farmland. As you know, China, for some reason, under Joe Biden, got into owning our farmland. No, our farmland is owned by America, and we have to get back to our farmers. They work really hard for their farms. But again, even though President Trump is doing such a great job, we have these liberal crazies. We have a post, liberal women, and Damon will put that up right now, and I'll read you guys the post. Yeah, liberal women are planning to protest President Trump in the dumbest way possible. What are they doing? They lost. Move on or join us. Join our party. As one of my guests, Tim Fasenbaker, said, make it your Republican Party. Why are these liberal women planning to protest Donald Trump? What is there to protest? He's getting you back to the workforce. He's actually believes in IVF. He wants you guys to prosper. He wants you guys to have a life. He wants you guys to get married and have children. What are you protesting him on? Seriously, this is crazy and asinine. Just crazy. It is stupid. But they continue to attack him. They continue to attack him. And we also have a tweet by my friend DC Drano about, whoa, a House staffer, and we'll put that up right now. President Trump has, as you know, survived 2 assassination attempts. Now it says, whoa, a House staffer was caught with a gun heading to Trump's State of the Union. It wasn't the State of the Union, it was the presidential address. And this is the 4th time an incident like this has happened. In one of these events, the person had a concealed gun just feet from Trump. U.S. Capitol Police needs a new chief ASAP. This can't be allowed to happen. I agree. What the hell are they allowing people with guns in the Capitol, in the rotunda? This is crazy. Another attempt. It's like a 3rd or 4th attempt already on this man's life. So the liberals want to protest him. People are trying to kill him because he's doing for we the people. And my question is, and a lot of people said this to me, why would the deep state allow him to win? Why did they allow President Trump to win the presidency? As you know, the deep state, the socialists, the globalists, the communist, Marxist elitists, they did everything they can to rig the 2020 election for Joe Biden because they didn't want President Trump reelected. But everyone's telling me, and we have an election integrity specialist coming up, why did they make it so easy for President Trump to just win and just go right into the White House and start cleaning house and he's going to rip apart the deep state, rip apart the FBI, the DNI, DOJ, DHS, and so forth. And he's getting rid of all of these illegals, and we have the lowest crossing over the borders in 25 years. So we say, what are the gods, what are the political gods thinking in the back of their heads? Why is this so easy? Was it really too big to rig, as President Trump's administration has said? And I believe that it was too big to rig. I really do. I worked the elections. I worked with President Trump up in Pennsylvania. I saw people change parties. I saw people change in the primary from Democrat to Republican and vote for him in the primary. But everyone's saying, why is this so easy? There's got to be another angle here. There's got to be something here. Trust no one. Trust no one. You think somebody's your friend, but they're not. And there's a lot of enemies that are still in the FBI and the DNI and deep state. The lobbyists and special interests are detriments to our nation. The lobbyists are the ones that are controlling the power of the purse and allowing these Democrats to just get in and stall, and they're allowing these rhinos to get in and stall, and they're all bought and paid for, and they all say things that are not good for we the people. They say nice things to get elected, and then once they get elected, the socialists, the special interests on the lobbyists, they dangle a huge amount of money in front of them, and they say, you got to do what we say. If not, we won't support you. You won't get reelected. And unfortunately, people are suckers. And as I say, there's a sucker born every day, and they take the money. They take the money and they let go of their free will and they let go of their freedom. That's why I have called for special interests and lobbyists, especially lobbyists, to be removed from DC, because they are detriments to the political cycle. And of course, they're the ones that are controlling the power of the purse. They make more money than the President of the United States. They make more money than elected officials. But what are they doing to benefit society? Nothing. They're just benefiting themselves and the socialists, communists, globalists, elitists, and Marxist elitists. And also, we have something very interesting. President Trump put on his Truth Social, as I made clear during my joint address. And
all I know is this: we're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs. We're going to have open factories. It's going to be great. The Democrats are out of control. You saw that the other night.
But this was a moment where President Trump was on Air Force One, and he was talking to the press, and he says, we're going to be richer than ever before. But there is a specific tweet that, there we go, retruth. As I made clear during my joint address in Congress, the United States strongly supports the people of Greenland's right to determine their own future. We will continue to keep you safe, as we have since World War II. We are ready to invest billions of dollars to create new jobs and make you rich. And if you so choose, we welcome you to be a part of the greatest nation anywhere in the world, the United States of America. So he's talking about owning Greenland. He's talking about making a deal with Greenland, making a deal with the Panama Canal, making a deal with Iceland. But he also said something interesting, another Truth Social. This pertains to the House and the Senate and how they're putting together a tax bill right now. And we're going to put up that truth. There we go. The House and Senate put together, under the circumstances, a very good funding bill, the CR, that's called the resolution, the constitutional resolution. All Republicans should vote yes, please. Yes, next week. Great things are coming for America, and I'm asking all to give us a few months to get us through to September so we can continue to put the country's financial house in order. Democrats will do anything they can to shut down our government, and we can't let that happen. We have to remain united, no dissent. Fight for another day when the timing is right. Very important. Make America great again. That's so important. As you know, the Trump tax cuts were huge wins for the American people. We are still living through the Trump tax cut era. The Trump tax cuts were supposed to end in December 2025. And now that President Trump has been reelected, he will extend those Trump tax cuts. And that's what's really important. The president, he's making the House and the Senate, he's making them pass a balanced budget so the government doesn't shut down. And it's so ironic because the Democrats talk about don't shut the government down, don't shut the government down. But now they want the government to shut down. Why all of a sudden does the Democrats want the government to shut down? To blame President Trump? Of course. Make it his fault that all these government workers aren't working. Well, let me tell you something. Even when they shut down the government, they may shut it down for a day, 2 days, a week. Those government employees, they get their money back. It's called back pay, sick days, vacation days, whatever. They don't really shut the government down for extended periods of time. President Trump never shut the government down. And when he did, and when he threatened to shut the government down, he told Chuck Schumer, Shut the government down. Do it. Told Nancy Pelosi, do it. I'll take the hit for it. I'll take the blame for it. Because President Trump is not going to sign bills that don't benefit this nation. And fixing the economy and getting people back to work is something that he campaigned on. You know, people are saying, why hasn't the cost of eggs gone down? Why hasn't the cost of gas gone down? Why hasn't this gone down? Why hasn't that gone down? It's going down. You're just not paying attention. And it's going to continue to go down. And the passing of this tax bill will help the American people, will get them back to work, will reduce the price of gas, the price of groceries, etc. As you know, under President Trump, we were energy independent. We're becoming energy independent again. And he's also putting the coal miners back to work. That's something that he campaigned on as well, because under Joe Biden, the coal miners were out of work. And we need that coal. We need that coal and we need that oil. And President Trump understands all of this as a businessman, but he understands this. So we the people, as President Trump said, we're going to be rich again. Remember, in all of his rallies, he said at the end, we will make America great again. We will make America strong again. We will make America rich again. Everything he says is true. Everything that he says he does. Promises made, promises kept. And the president just continues to thrive as these Democrats are losing their minds. Also, breaking news tonight, Ukraine actually agreed to a 30-day ceasefire with Russia. Who could have put that together? Joe Biden didn't put that together. That was President Trump and his administration that put that together. I wonder why the Democrats are so mad, because they couldn't put it together. They don't want to put it together. They want us to keep fighting. As Elizabeth Warren, she shook her head yes when President Trump said at his presidential address, it was up to Pocahontas, we'd be there for 5 more years giving them more money. And she shook her head yes as she's clapping. And he says, yeah, Pocahontas, yep, that's right. I mean, only President Trump can be the peacemaker here and the deal maker here. He put out, you know, he pushed the ceasefire with Israel and Gaza, which worked. And he's pushing the ceasefire now with Ukraine and Russia. Russia has to agree to the ceasefire, which I believe they will. And let's see how Zelensky plays his hand now. Remember, Zelensky doesn't have the cards. As President Trump said, Zelensky does not have the cards. We also have a clip that we're going to show as well.
All I know is this. We're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs. We're going to have open factories.
I guess the clip is not working. So that was the clip. I'm so sorry. So, okay, the clip wasn't working, so forget it. So the clip was that we're going to be rich again. Okay, I wanted to play that, but it's okay. So, yeah, it's very important to note, again, that President Trump is helping our country, that President Trump loves we the people, that President Trump is helping us to thrive, that our jobs report is the best it's been in a long time. Again, manufacturing jobs are coming back to this country. We have Merck and pharmaceutical companies that now want to do business here in America. And President Trump, he's cracking down on those tariffs. And people today, you know, foreigners, they freak out. Oh my God, tariffs. Oh my God, tariffs. One guy said to Caroline Leavitt today at the White House briefing room, it was the Associated Press. He said, have you ever paid a tariff before? I've paid a tariff before. I know what a tariff's all about. It's terrible. And she had the very right to defend herself and say, I don't like that you're taking my credibility away and saying that I don't know what a tariff is. But I'm so sorry that she had to pay for one. But what you don't understand is that by putting tariffs on these foreign countries, we, the American people, don't get screwed anymore. We, the American people, were getting screwed by paying China this amount of money and Europe this amount of money. And we, as the American people, were getting zero in return. By President Trump warning Canada and warning Mexico, and warning these other countries that if if your trade is not fair with us, we will tax the hell out of you. We will tariff the hell out of you. And Justin Trudeau backed off. The president of Mexico backed off, and many others have backed off. It's very, very important that we, the American people, thrive. We are this big nation. We are the mothership of countries. And President Trump doesn't want the United States to be weak anymore. We were weak under Joe Biden's leadership. Everybody knows that. That's why we all voted for President Trump. It's called a mandate. We gave President Trump a mandate to take this country back. And for people that voted for President Trump, please trust the process. Please let him thrive and let him do what he campaigned on. He knows what he's doing. A lot of people are pissed off at Pam Bondi. They said she didn't release the Epstein files like she said she was going to. Let me tell you something. She's doing her job. She's doing her job. She had the FBI in New York push back, and I found out that they didn't even provide the proper list or the real list for her. She also wrote a letter to Kash Patel before he became the FBI director to let him know all these pushbacks that are going to happen under her leadership and under his. So please stop attacking Pam Bondi. She's doing her job. Let her continue to do her job. She's only been in there for a few weeks. You got to give these people time. You got to give them a chance. And you know President Trump, if they don't do the job, he will fire them. He has no problems. It's not going to be like 2017 where he was a novice and he trusted all these people and they turned out to be backstabbers and rhinos. He put people in place that he knows he can trust and people that will actually get the job done. And that's very, very, very important. And again, people need to understand how important it is why President Trump put certain people in place. Today, President Trump he bought a Tesla, no discount, and it was showcased at the White House at about 4:45 p.m. at the White House lawn. Now, President Trump said he's not going to drive it. I'm not sure if President Trump has a driver's license or not. Maybe he does. I'm not sure. But he said he's going to keep it in the White House. It's going to be circulating around the lawn of the White House. He's not going to take it out. But he picked a beautiful red Tesla, and Elon Musk was there with his son X to show President Trump the car, to demonstrate, and he gave President Trump a bunch of options for this car. And I know a lot of people that are Trump supporters, and they're all buying Teslas. They're all buying Teslas. And these are people that love, gas powered cars. I drive a gas powered car. Most Americans cannot afford an electronic car. And President Trump said, I'm not against electronic cars, but I know majority of the people, they rely on gas powered cars as well. And that's why he's got us out of the Green New scam, which is a scam. It's a job killer. Just like he got us out of the Paris Climate Accord, job killer. Just like he's getting us out of all these things that are job killers for we the people and hurting we the people. So again, President Trump's done amazing things. All of his cabinet members have been confirmed and sworn in. He just confirmed today his new head of Secret Service, Sean Curran, who was there when President Trump got the shots of the year. And Sean Curran was there at the presidential address when he gave DJ, the 13-year-old, his United States Secret Service badge. And Sean Curran is great. President Trump trusts him. He feels that he's been good to him. And that's why he was sworn in today. So we have some pretty big players, some pretty big hitters that are working for President Trump. So again, we just have to trust the process. We have to allow President Trump to lead, allow him to govern. And, I encourage my audience to kind of hold their horses before they jump to conclusions about certain people that he's appointed, certain things that he's doing, about Pam Bondi, about Kash Patel. Again, these people have only been sworn in for 3 weeks, and they're doing a hell of a great job in just the 3 weeks. President Trump has done a phenomenal job since he got sworn in on January 20th. Well, coming back after the break, I have a special guest, a new guest. His name is Daryl Bowe. He's all about voter integrity in the state of Virginia, and he will be with us.
Do you have old home videotapes that you're no longer able to watch? Need them transferred to DVD, Blu-ray, or your smart device? Baltimore Digital offers professional-grade VHS, mini DV, and high 8 digitizing services. We can also convert Super 8mm film too. Baltimore Digital also provides photo restoration services. Visit archive.baltimoredigital.net. Mention code Alexandra for a 10% introductory.
Hello, everyone. It's me again, Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live. Please go to baltimore.digital.net. Say my name, Alexandra. You get 10% off. That is one of our good friends, Adam Reuter. We thank him so much for sponsoring the show. We have a wonderful guest again. His name is Daryl Bowe. He's new to the program, and he's going to talk to us all about voter integrity in Virginia. Thanks so much, Daryl, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, Daryl, tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, like the United States Marine Corps when I was 18, and served 8 years of active duty in the Marine Corps. Most of my time was spent in Central South America. After that, I left the Marine Corps, and then I joined the Army National Guard for about 3 years, and I worked counter narcotics during that time to the United States Marine Corps Reserves, and then I worked additional 2 years in the Marine Corps, and then I got it all together. And then in 2000, I applied for a job with the United States Secret Service, and my first day on the job was September 11th, 2000. And then after 9/11 took place, the Federal Air Marshal Service, 2.5 years as a Federal Air Marshal, keeping our skies safe. So after that, the 2020 elections took place, and like everyone else, trying to figure out. And I got in with grassroots citizens throughout the nation, a lot of teams, various states, on social media platforms like, and also it was established, and then also Telegram. And so I started making connections, and like everybody else, we were just trying to figure out what happened, how it happened. And I started working with various individuals like Mark Cook, Patrick Colbeck, and Mark Cook got a cyber IT specialist background. He was deeply involved with Tina Peters and what was taking place in Colorado, and he traveled all over the country trying to educate and inform people. And so I started out giving a presentation with my board of supervisors in my county here in Virginia, and Mark came out and helped me. He talked the technical side, the IT technical side. I just took it from the position of, I started studying the whole process of our elections, because I was basically looking for the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Is there any evidence that there was any kind of fraud, manipulation? What's I got to vote on election day. I had to vote early because of my job, but fill in the bubbles, push it through the tabulator, go home, watch the election results like everybody else. And then 2020 takes place. And then I started looking at the whole process. And early on, I after started studying it in the Code of Virginia, I realized we have no transparency in this process. We're literally trusting somebody else to tell us that the machines are certified. They're telling us what the results are. They're telling us that the proprietary software has been tested. And we took our system for granted. And we a whole lot. But like trust but verify, and the problem is now that we've realized no transparency, you barely can get any kind of FOIA request filled to get any kind of documentation. You can't see the ballots, you can't see the ballot image. In Virginia, very few times. It's very obvious when we started doing the board of supervisors, we were trying to find some way to restore. Well, they told us, well, the board of supervisors can't do anything. You got to go to your electoral board in your county and your registrar and talk with them. You go to them and they tell you you need to go see your legislators. And then the legislators, of course, give you the story. They don't have the majority to be able to do anything or pass any laws to make any changes. So it was just basically chasing this full circle and coming back to the same starting point. And so then we started expanding. We got more deeply involved with the elections and studying the process, the procedures, the method of voting, the Constitution of Virginia, every aspect of the elections that we could study and research, poll watching, multiple elections, watching from the end. I wasn't just potentially for any kind of fraud. I wanted to the process. I needed to find where's the problem, if there is a problem. And so once I got to looking at the Constitution, I've realized in Article 2, Section 3 of the Virginia Constitution, it tells us, nor the votes counted in secret. The votes are not to be counted in secret. And when you start studying the whole process, it's not just the machines, though it is, it's the whole process of where the Constitution guarantees you your right to be able to cast the vote in secret. They have to guarantee you that secrecy while you're casting your vote. But when you insert that ballot into the, it's the continuation of the secrecy and the vote in secret, because it's using proprietary software. You and I cannot have it independently analyzed. So my approach and my thing is to go after the laws that are governing our elections, because if the count remains secret, the election, they're trusting a piece of tape off the tabulator to tell them what the results are, without them being able, and they're signing and searching your account without to be able to verify. So Virginia, I started hearing about a half a dozen other states of how their wording is in their constitution, and there's not very many similar, like the Virginia's. They've had it written since 1902 that have counted. So initially, I was looking for evidence of fraud in various states, and I've gathered because of watching and learning from Michael Court. The courts would not hear the evidence; they didn't want to hear it. Carrie Lake. I followed all of these various lawsuits, teams across the nation, and when I started looking at the Constitution of Virginia, I realized our best chance is to go after the election laws that we believe are the Virginia Constitution. And because the way the procedures are written, it doesn't allow the count. It doesn't allow the poll observers to verify whether it's a true and accurate count. Even afterwards, when those ballots get shipped back to the office and they stay there for 10 days, and if there's no challenge to the race, the circuit clerk's office stay locked up for 22 months. So we don't know if that is in fact a true and accurate count. And so we've got, with the penalty of perjury, with the penalty of if they're willfully lying and making a false statement. So we're taking that approach to court. We've initially filed in court in Waynesboro. We're going to file a whole new case here soon to challenge the secret count. We're also going to challenge the absentee and even the qualified voter, because we know right now there's only 2 states in the nation that requires you to show up in Kansas. So by challenging the qualified voter, we've got to change the law to come in compliance with the Constitution. Only U.S. citizens are allowed to vote in our elections. Here in Virginia, if I want a driver's license from Virginia, I have to show proof that I am a resident and I have residence here in Virginia. But we don't do the same thing with the requirements of proving that you're a U.S. citizen. We don't show documentation that you're a citizen under the. But the problem is, we're not verifying the election suffering injury in that they may certified ballots. Driver's license or not. And so we've taken this through the 4 years that we've been researching. We've given presentations to congressmen here in Virginia, state legislators, and when they saw the evidence of the potential easy manipulation of the systems, they did nothing. They're fearful to put their hands on this and take proper, accurate, expose the truth. But yet no action was taken. So we took a different standpoint and taken it to the courts to see if they'll rule in our favor that these laws are in fact unconstitutional, and then hopefully puts you back into the election process.
Well, Daryl, I have a question for you, because in Virginia, you have a Democrat legislation now, and you're gearing up for a gubernatorial race. What are you guys doing, or what are you doing in your efforts to switch the delegation back to Republican and make sure that you have the right governor and lieutenant governor in place to help you in this process?
Right. Yeah, that's the big push right now, because with us, we have elections every year. When we have federal elections like last year, this year it is the state elections. And so we're in this continuous cycle. And it's very, very important, because we have 2 amendments coming. If the Democrats gain and they don't really need the governorship, but what they need to keep is the House and the Senate in order to pass 2 years in a row an amendment to the Constitution of Virginia for abortion and for same-sex marriage, for like in close proximity to Washington, northern. And so definitively our efforts are going to make a difference, but what I'm hoping for is to give us a fair chance of a good election, to where we can keep the governorship and gain the House, at least the House. If we can do that, then we can block their efforts of trying to amend the Constitution of Virginia for same-sex marriage and for the abortion. The thing of it is about with Virginia, they're always they'll tell you 2 things about your elections: that it's fair and it's secure. Problem is, who's it secure from? See anything to verify? I can't. And so because of that, we're lacking transparency. My hope is, if the courts rule in our favor, the election officials will have to verify the count. We'll have to look at the ballots. That election, that is, they're going to review those ballots. True now, there was no anything else, or flipping votes. What happened in Antrim County, Michigan, and other places. And so I think if we can get in court and challenge some of these election laws and get it reversed, we're doing elections 45 days before election day. We've got mail-in ballots with no excuse. And we've got, like I said, the qualified voter. There's so many types of IDs, or you can even come vote without an ID, and you just sign a card saying you're me, and you can vote in my. And so we've got a lot of problems. We've got to get in court and challenge this before November this year to have a chance.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up question on that. Because, as you know, President Trump, he said on the campaign trail he wants to get rid of the mail-in ballots, paper ballots all the way, one-day election, wants to get rid of early voting. What can we do or what can you do, I should say, on the state level to make that happen?
Well, from the federal standpoint, from Texas, Sessions is his last name, and it's a good bill. It gets rid of the machines to hand count paper out. Election may not have an impact on our election coming up this year, unless our legislators amend some of the laws to come in compliant with that federal law. And they tend, once the federal law passes, then it affects the federal laws, but generally the states follow suit. They're going to follow behind and start amending their laws, because they're not going to run state elections one way and then the federal another way. Arizona, they hold their state as well as their federal elections the same year. So it's going to have an impact on them immediately. But for us, because we're off year, I'm not totally sure if it would have an impact on us this year or not. That's why I'm anxious to get in court. I need more attorneys to help us to represent the election officials, because when I started studying this, I was looking at the Code of Virginia, and the one that addresses the issue of the qualified voter. When I read that, it was like I was looking through the eyes of an election official. I'm like, they have standing. They suffer a potential injury because they suffer liability if they're giving a qualified, certified ballot to an unqualified voter. And so they have every right to challenge these election laws throughout the state. If there's election officials in the room and they hear my presentation and I start walking them through it, the process and everything, they're like hands up. They want to sign on as a plaintiff. So they agree with us.
Daryl, as you know, in Virginia, you have an open primary. There was a question on some of the Virginia groups on Facebook. Can we make Virginia a closed primary? What say you about that?
I would like to see it. And we've had issues with that in the past. I've had candidates that were running for like the school board, and he was looking at, because as he was outdoor knocking, they had access to the list. And when he looked at his name, it showed that he voted in a Democrat primary. He was like, I never voted. I don't even vote Republican primaries. I didn't vote in a Democrat primary. So, and I found my name back in 2013 showing as voting a Democrat primary. I've never voted Democrat. There's only two Democrats I ever voted for. That was Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. And they were former Democrats. So, you know, I've always been a Republican in a sense. And so there's a lot of issues with the elections, but I'm all for a primary, you know, and now they've amended it. They've adjusted where both the Democrats and Republicans are holding the primaries on the same day. So you can't vote 2 weeks before in the Democrat and then come Republican. And I'm all for it. I wish they would do it, but we're a little closer to at least trying to minimize some of the problems of the open primaries.
Oh. I am so sorry about that. Somebody actually called me while I was live.
That's okay.
Am I frozen? Can you hear me? I'm actually frozen on my end. Lovely.
Oh, yeah. I can hear you.
I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. Well, I'll fix that after the break. So I'm just going to end in about 5 minutes, in about a couple minutes. I'm so sorry about that. So my question to you is, what were the biggest mistakes that you saw in the U.S. senatorial election? If you saw any fraud or any issues with the presidential election as well as your Senate election, because, you know, President Trump, he did endorse Hung Chau. We really thought that Hung Chau was going to be, you know, the next senator, but I know Tim Kaine is very tough to beat. I know he is, especially as an incumbent. And did you see any issues with that election?
To be honest with you, I don't even know who's duly elected. And I believe that Donald Trump probably won by even a larger margin, but because there is no transparency in the process, it's really hard to say what is the true actual numbers. We've got a lot of problems in Virginia. DC is one of them because it's so close to us, and we've got a lot of federal employees in the north part, but exactly the mail-in ballots is a big problem, possibly the machines. I believe it's deep in our system, but I can't get access to it to really have it fully analyzed and figure out what the problem is. And I've explained this to the election officials in my county. I believe it's deep in the system, between the connection between the registrar's office and our central office in Richmond. And I'll give you a quick example to explain. We did a canvass in November 2021. We knocked on 800 doors in one precinct. And out of that 800 doors, we identified 595 voters. And when they answered our questions, did they vote in the 2020 election? What method did they vote? Mail-in ballot, early voting, election day? And we had 78 people said they did not vote in the 2020 election, but yet there was a vote showing in the voter history list when we requested that list from the state board elections. And then we had 6 people who said they did vote, but there was nothing showing in their voter history list. To me, that's an indicator that we have potential digital system, but because we're so limited on what we can access, it makes it really difficult to get to the bottom of what happened. And that's not just in one precinct in one county in Virginia. From what I've heard, it's all throughout the nation, the same problem. So was the same thing happening in the 2024 election? Good possibility. We've talked about doing another canvassing in another precinct to vote. We believe that the down ballots across the nation, we lost several Senate seats that we should have won. My estimate, we should be at least 20 to 30 seat majority in the House, but we're not. So we've still got a lot of problems in our elections. Thank God Donald Trump is in office as the president. I got a lot of hypotheses of what may have happened, why they allowed him, because if they control of our systems. We know the federal government's monitoring our election systems. We know that. We've got the documentation. We got the FOIA request. So you've got so many hands in the cookie jar, I can't defend you who or what they're doing. But one day, hand counted, paper ballot, even our poll books, they're connecting and they're monitoring. So they know who's already voted, who hasn't voted. That's digital manipulation. Create phantom voters, people who don't vote, but yet there's a vote showing in their history. So we've got problems. We still have a lot of work. I haven't quit because President Trump is in. We're going to have elections again here soon in 2020. And we got state elections. If we lose Virginia and they are able to amend our Constitution, we're going down. We're still a critical state, and it needs to be addressed sooner than later. And that's why I'm still pressing on, trying to find transparency and restore it. And it's been the same message from the very beginning. There's no transparency. You and I, as a voter, we should be able to go to the county circuit clerk's office and do an audit for ourselves. I should be able to see those ballots, but I have to go to the courts to get permission to see the ballots. They get reinserted in the same amount. We just recently had Congressman Good, who had lost his primary. He had to pay $80,000 for attorney fees to do a recount, and they ran the ballots through the same machines. You never get to look at the physical votes on the ballots. And I want to change.
Well, I think that's great. I love your efforts. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes.
You can hear me, great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, some people on so they couldn't hear me. No, I think your efforts are great. I just 1 minute before we end the segment, let our viewers know how they can follow you and how they can keep up with what you're doing and get involved.
Well, now and the way I'm kind of used to working a lot alone. I mean, I work with others also. I've had Patrick Colbeck, I've had Mark Cook to help me give a 3-hour presentation. We're at the point right now where we just need good attorneys to represent the plaintiffs. Probably my best way to see it is on X, personal name. My brother's Colonel. And so, but I don't post a lot about what I'm doing on elections. I follow others and I just kind of keep tabs of what's going on throughout the country. But we're at the point now where we've got a good handle on how to address this. And it could be in other states. Louisiana's got the same issue. Their constitution says that they're counting it publicly. So they're challenging their touchscreen machines. South Carolina, the ballots are not to be counted in secret. So there's a couple of them out there in similar wording. We go back to the content of our Constitution and read it and see how it governs our election laws, and then look at the see if they're in compliant with your Constitution. That could be another way that states address and attack it. They may come out from the fact, but I don't want to wait, because for whatever reason, if their bill is blocked and they can't get it passed, I'm still going on and pressing on, trying to here in Virginia, just to get as much transparency as possible. It's our future. Our nation. Try to diminish Donald Trump's efforts. He's got a big, and he's need all the help in every state. We're just getting started at the state and federal level. So I know everybody wants to take a break after 4 years because this has been a full-time job for the past 4 years in the country. So it's everything. This is Venezuela 2.0. Get transparency in the process of, if my candidate loses, fine, but I want to know without a doubt that is the accurate count, and I'll accept it. But there's no way to verify it now. Place where we can and save our country.
Well, you are doing God's work, and we appreciate everything that you're doing. And we'd love to have you back on the show to further tell us about your efforts and what you're doing. Again, how can we follow? Can we follow you on Twitter or X? Is there a way to follow you on those platforms?
Yeah, that would be Colonel _ at Colonel _ Riddle, RIDDLE.
At Colonel _ Riddle. No, I think the last part, but you can follow Mr. Daryl on Twitter at Colonel _ Riddle, RIDDLE. That's at Colonel _ Riddle. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much, Daryl. And we will be right back after the break.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a professional opera singer, actress, TV, and radio personality. Since 2015, I've been a volunteer, a field director, and a campaign manager, learning the ins and outs of the political world. That's why I became a political consultant. My job is to lead you to victory with organization, structure, and the mindset of winning for your district or state. With my guidance and direction, I can keep you focused on the things that matter to the people and advise you on key issues that need to be addressed. If you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, then book a consultation with me today. Go to levineconsulting.co. You'll be happy you did.
Hi, everyone. It's Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live. Speaking of elections, I own my own political consulting firm. That's levineconsulting.co. Levineconsulting.co. Go to that website and book a consultation with me today. If you are a serious candidate, serious about winning, book a consultation with me today. Well, we just had a wonderful guest, Daryl Bow. He has dedicated his life to election integrity in Virginia. Please follow him on X at Colonel _ Riddle, RIDDLE. That's at Colonel _ Riddle, RIDDLE. You can read all up about him in regards to what he's doing in Virginia. Please keep in mind, we do have a gubernatorial race in Virginia. We have the lieutenant governor, the attorney general. Governor Youngkin cannot run for re-election under Virginia law. Winsome Sears is his lieutenant governor, who is running for governor. Of course, she wants to take his spot. And Jason Maharis, who is the current attorney general, he's running for re-election. He's a good guy. He's done some great things for Israel. He supports getting rid of the Gaza encampments at schools and implementing Holocaust and Israel education to schools. That's my life's work. That's what he and I have been working on and talking about. And he also worked with Governor Youngkin to implement the IHRA resolution, which completely states what the word anti-Semitism means. So I thank the Attorney General in Virginia for doing that. And I hope that he gets reelected. As I said, he came in there on day one and took out a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse. But we need DOJ in there in the state of Virginia to really take out all of the waste, fraud, and abuse. So we're turning now to a very other popular subject that's been going on. It's about, as we've noticed and as we saw growing, of course, the minority trying to be the majority in the trans community all over nationwide, and Riley Gaines brought this up, is men and women's sports. So these are men that claim that they're women, they are turning into women, they're trans women, which is really a man, and they're playing in women's sports. And right now it's a state's issue. all state by state, they're going through to pass the law that men should not be in women's sports. The first person to do that was former governor of Kristi Noem, who's now our DHS secretary. She signed it. She was one of the first. And my Governor Ron DeSantis, has signed it, and so many others. But of course, unfortunately, we have governors like in the state of Maryland, for example, and I bring up Maryland a lot because I have reached out to Pam Bondi to investigate and look into suing the state of Maryland for combating President Trump's executive orders in regards to DEI hires, in regards to the illegal immigration problem that's happening in the state of Maryland. But the real issue is that these liberal states are allowing men to compete in women's sports. And that's just disgusting, and it's asinine. As you know, President Trump has already talked about getting rid of the Department of Education. He did have Linda McMahon sworn in as the Secretary of the Department of Education, but he got rid of it. And he's he's telling the American people to push education back to the states. But again, federal always overrides state. So if the state passes something that's unconstitutional, federal government will come in and override it. As you know, as I talked about last week with my guest Tim Fazenbaker, we're working on the federal level to override the illegal bill that Governor Westmore pushed to put Section 8 housing into Fort Howard. Fort Howard is federal land. Under law, you can't put anything else there. You have to leave the federal land alone. So it's federal land, federal property, and we are working with the federal level to override that illegal bill. But federal government's going to have to come in to override these governors that are pushing this liberal agenda. Again, this woke agenda. What does President Trump always have said, or says today? Woke turns everything to shit. When you have a country, or when you have wokeness, turns everything to hell. And that is the truth. When you have men and women's sports, it screws up the records. It screws up everything. And the women know this. And it's very uncomfortable for a woman to take a shower with a guy. I mean, literally a guy. It's a woman, but she still has, it's someone that claims to be a woman. They don't have boobs. They don't have a women body parts. They have man's parts, and you're taking a shower with that person, and they're calling themselves a woman. No, I'm sorry. There are two genders, male and female, and you are biologically, I'm personally am biologically born a female. I do not claim to be a male whatsoever. I never will. If I transition, I'm still a female at the end of the day. So it's disgusting. It's disgusting what's happening. And I'm going to pull up the tweet. It says, me about to tell. Damon's going to pull that up for us. There it is. Me about to tell my wife I can't do. I can't read it. I can't do this because it's illegal for men to participate in women's sports. I'm sorry, I couldn't read the whole thing. I need a bigger screenshot to read the whole thing. It says, I'll try to read it again. If you guys can read it, that'd be great. There we go. Me about to tell my wife I can't do the dishes anymore because it's illegal for men to participate in women's sports. I mean, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And then we also have another meme that I'm going to bring up. It says, women's sport is not. But there it goes. And that actually, I put that out on X and I got hundreds of thousands of views. Women's sport is not a retirement plan for failed male athletes. And that's the truth. A lot of these failed male athletes like Leah Thompson, they were like the lowest ranking in swimming. So Leah Thompson said, I'm going to become a woman. And all of a sudden she's beating records and all this stuff. She's beating Riley Gaines, who's like a renowned Olympiast. Thank God that they took Leah Thompson's gold medals away from her and gave it to Riley Gaines, who is the true winner. Because Leah Gaines is not a woman. Leah Thompson is not a woman. Leah Thompson is a man. Leah Thompson still has men's genitalia. She is still a man. Doesn't matter if she grows her hair. Doesn't matter if she grows boobs, if she cuts her wiener off. She is still a man. She was born a man at the end of the day. And as you know, President Trump, he implemented this into executive order to initiate that men, grown-ass men should not be in women's sports. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. The fact that liberal wokeness pushed this through. Again, it's the minority being the majority. Majority of the Americans in this country do not want their daughters or their sons in a locker room with somebody that isn't the same gender as they are. And Riley Gaines and the girls on the women's swimming team were disgusted by seeing Leah Thompson in there with her male appendage taking a shower with everybody. It was disgusting. We're also going to play.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why.
And the clip on my end is not working. Please let me know if it's working on your end. There we go. We're taking it off. That was another clip. That was actually with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She's a hardcore Democrat from Texas. She's saying, again, that it's okay to have illegals here. She said, illegal immigrants are legal. That's what she said. Illegal immigrants are legal. She says it's okay. She says it's okay to have a bunch of illegal immigrants here. She says it's not illegal to have illegal criminals in here. It's not illegal to have illegal immigrants in here. It's okay that immigrants, they overextend or overstay their visas. That's okay. No, it's not okay. And she lives in a state. She lives in a state where President Trump said, build the wall. And they built a big, beautiful wall in El Paso, Texas. And they were continuously going to build the wall until Democrats took over the House of Representatives and the Senate. And they're going to, and Greg Abbott took action, her governor, and said, no more. I'm bringing in the National Guard. No more of these illegals coming into my country because they're not good people. As President Trump said, when Mexico comes in, they don't bring their best. They bring in rapists. They bring in drug dealers. They do sex trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking. Now under President Trump and Borders Czar Thomas Homan, illegal immigration has gone down. The drug cartels are getting arrested and these kids are getting saved. And enough is enough. Enough is enough. But all of this had to do with the Democrat administration, with Joe Biden. Tampons in a men's bathroom. Condoms in a man's bathroom and a woman's bathroom. In elementary school in the state of Maryland and in other liberal states. Men and women's sports. Illegal immigrants crossing the border. And killing our young women and children, by the way. Killing young people. Like what they did with Lincoln Riley and Rachel Morin and Jocelyn and many others. But this is the messaging of the Democrats. And the more that these Democrats combat President Trump, the more they're going to go to jail. The more they're going to go to jail. Again, I bring up the state of Maryland because I do a lot of work here and I have a lot of friends that live in Maryland. But they're a prime example of a state that thinks because they're black, because the governor's black, the attorney general's black, the Baltimore city mayor is black, they call themselves DEI leaders, that nothing is going to happen to them. There's going to be no repercussions because they're black. And if, God forbid, Thomas Homan or Kristi Noem comes in and arrests them, or Attorney General Pam Bondi arrests them, sues the state, they're going to blame, they're going to say, they're going to scream racism and say it's because I'm black that they're suing me. It's because I'm black that they're charging me. No. And Tim Baker said these are racist tactics that they use. No, they're the ones that are hiring everything under the sun, except for the people that should be in these positions, the people that really deserve it, the people that have merit. President Trump says we want people based on merits, not the color of their skin. Not because they're 21 years old or 19 or 30 or 50. We want the best of the best. Not Governor Wes Moore. He hires the worst of the worst. He has the most diverse cabinet out of all the states. And diversity is fine. Diversity is great. I mean, when I was working for a candidate, I'm Jewish. The senior campaign manager is Jewish and black and deaf. The deputy campaign manager was gay. We had two women. One was bisexual. The other one was a hardcore Christian. I mean, it was a mix. It was a mix. But the reason that these people were hired, they were not hired because they were gay. I wasn't hired because I was Jewish. The other person wasn't hired because they were bisexual. They were hired because they were so good at their jobs. They could do the job. They did the work. I was hired because of my work. Because of my work with the Jewish people, because of my work with other candidates that I've worked with, because of volunteering with President Trump and so forth. And it worked out great. Guy's in office now today as a result. So again, you can have diversity, but it's got to be the right diversity. It can't be someone like who Ben Cardin had as a staffer who had sex with another guy in the halls of the Senate. It's disgusting. And no repercussions happened to him. He just got fired. He should have went to jail. If a Republican did that, a Republican staffer did that, oh my God. But these are things These are things that we all need to think about. We all need to think about. But nobody does. And you have to look at the Democrat congressmen, the Democrat senators, and these rhinos that are pushing this forward. It's very, very, very important. It's very, very important that we get the right people in office. And we also have to be careful who's working behind the scenes. There are former rhinos that are trying to run for office again that are using different committees, their minions, to push their agenda forward. They're making sure their name isn't on anything, so they're clean. Like for certain signs, certain organizations. And the thing is that the main person, the king is in charge, he'll make sure that his minions get sued, and he'll make sure that they take the heat for him or for her. But God forbid he's held accountable or she's held accountable. And that's been happening all over this country. It's like one guy lost the U.S. Senate. He's trying to run for governor. He was governor of the state for 8 years. He served his time. People didn't vote for him for the U.S. Senate. He alienated most of his Republican base. He's a rhino, one of the biggest rhinos in the country. I'm not going to say his name because I'm not going to acknowledge him, but I mentioned him many times. But, you know, the word is getting out that he's putting this organization together behind the scenes to try to oust an incumbent governor. But for some reason, there's no trace of his name or his hands on this organization. There's no documentation on an FEC report. There's no documentation anywhere. It's not even showing where the donations to this organization are coming from. It's so secretive. Why is it so secretive? But yet you have committees that are willing to put up the money for signs for this organization, billboards even. Why would they do this? Why would they do this other man's bidding? And in central committees and REC committees and RPOS committees and RPO committees, under their bylaws, they're not allowed to endorse a candidate before the primary. So if this guy's thinking of running for governor and you have central committees that are helping him already behind the scenes, they're breaking their bylaws. If you have the RNC of Maryland helping him, or not Maryland, I'm sorry. I slipped. I'm just saying the RNC of any state helping him, it's a problem. It's a problem. They're breaking their bylaws. And President Trump will look into that. He will definitely look into that. Let me tell you something. President Trump doesn't just deal with the federal level. He works with the state and local level as well. He looks at all of it. He looks at who's trying to get into office. He's looking at who is the right person for the job and who's the wrong person for the job. And he's being very, very discreet on who he endorses, whether he's going to endorse anyone in the Virginia gubernatorial race or not. That's his discretion. That's his decision. But we want the right person in office. We want someone that can work with President Trump, but also someone that supports President Trump and endorses his agenda and the America First agenda and the mandate. That's what we want, the mandate. It's all about the mandate. And if we don't follow that mandate, you're out. You're out. It's a very important mandate on November 5th. It's even more important once he gets sworn in. And like I said, he's been following everything that he said he was going to do, and then some. He's made it known to the American people what his agenda is, and he's not going to stop until it's done. That's why the first 100 days are the most important. I told you, it's not the first 2 years, it's the first 100 days. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to get into something that's really near and dear to my heart in regards to what's been going on with these stupid Gaza encampments. We'll bring up the Israel-Hamas conflict, but we're also going to talk about what President Trump has done to secure Jewish and Christian students nationwide. We'll be back after the break.
The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, Elena, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
And we're back live. I'm Alexandra Levine Live. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We've been talking about multiple different subjects today. We've been talking about President Trump's day today. We've been talking about election integrity in Virginia. We just talked about men and women's sports. Now we're going to get into international issues. So one thing about my show is I go from local issues to national issues to international issues. I love to keep my viewers informed of what's going on, not only in the country, but across the globe. As you know, I'm 100% Jewish. And I've worked a lot with the Israeli Defense Force over my time. I worked with the Israeli government as well, with the Israeli ministry. I lived in Israel for a year, working with a lot of the IDF officers and people in the Israeli Knesset. So one of the biggest things that hurts me, you know, as a Jewish person is, I don't know if I told any of my viewers this story, but I will. I was brought up in a very small town. At the time, Sarasota, Florida. There was no Jews at the time. I was the only Jew in the classroom. And I was made fun of for being Jewish. And I don't blame the children for that. I blame the ignorance of the teachers. I blame the ignorance of society around them. They didn't know about Jews. All they knew was what they were taught from other peers, what they were taught in their churches. And there was a lot of hatred. There was a lot of hatred towards me. My hair was made fun of, and they called me a freak because I celebrated Hanukkah, not Christmas. The teachers actually were upset with me and put me in detention because I didn't know Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and I didn't know any Christmas songs when I was 6 years old. But instead of me isolating myself and alienating myself and acting like an Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and AOC, I actually embraced my Christian brothers and sisters in school. And I wanted to know more about their religion. And I went to church with them. I sang in churches. I celebrated Christmas with a lot of my peers and Easter. But in exchange, I taught them a lot about my religion. I taught them about the laws of kashrut, which means kosher, clean in Hebrew. I brought them to my home so they could know what a Shabbat dinner was like. I brought them to my Passover Seder. It's actually tradition during Passover to bring a non-Jewish person over to your home to celebrate it. And I also brought a lot of kids over to my home to celebrate Hanukkah, to watch the lighting of the menorah, which a lot of kids didn't know what a menorah was. And we also played dreidel dreidel together, and they didn't know what that was. So it was really nice for us to both embrace our religions together. Also in exchange, they went to synagogue with me. They heard me conduct services, and we all blended in this Judeo-Christian world together. And I work with an organization called Jexit Inc., #Jexit. It stands for Jews, Christians, Other Minorities, #Jexiting the Democrat Party. But it also focuses on combating anti-Semitism and the persecution of Christians and other minorities as well. And I can tell you the majority of the people in the Jexit network are Christians. Again, we pride ourselves on our Christian brothers and sisters. The new Israeli ambassador is going to be former governor of Arkansas. Hello, Mike Huckabee. Now, Mike Huckabee is a very, very good friend to the Jewish people. And, you know, people said to me, why isn't it a Jewish person being the Israeli ambassador? Why is it a Christian? And I'm like, because we've had Jewish ambassadors for many, many years. It's nice to change it up, but also it's good to see that the Christian community is working with the Jewish community. And you get to see Mike Huckabee, who is a strong Christian Zionist, and he loves Israel and he loves the Jewish people. He's been there on and off for 30 years. His daughter, Sarah Huckabee, who's the governor now of Arkansas, she loves Israel, and she is implementing Holocaust and Israel education into the schools, which is actually my life's work. My life's work is to implement full Holocaust and Israel education, K through 12 in all 50 states. I was very successful doing it in Pennsylvania with my good friend, State Senator Doug Mastriano. I have been working with legislators in the state of Maryland to implement this. Florida had it full on way before I was born. I worked on it in Arizona. I worked on it in Missouri. And I'm continuing to work on it state by state. And if I have to go county by county, city by city to get it done, I will. In the state of Maryland, unfortunately, I have to go county by county. And education is very hard, especially in liberal states, because they want to put not just Holocaust education, but they want to throw in, well, you have to talk about LGBTQ trans education. Then you got to talk about CRT education. Then you got to talk about slavery education. Then you got to talk about other things that are really not relevant to history. And they also want to throw in, the gender identity and the CRT, which is not something that we as Americans need in the future, or as our young people need in the future. But the Holocaust was real. It did happen. My family survived it. My family died in the Holocaust as well. My family that did survive it had to come through Ellis Island, and they had to come through a sponsor. It was a very hard vetting process for my family to come to Ellis Island, New York. And my family, again, survived the Holocaust in Germany and in Poland. And as you know, Poland had one of the worst death camps, Auschwitz. You can still go there today. It is still intact. It is riveting. It is a riveting concentration camp. You will be forever shaken going there. I can tell you after October 7th, it shook not only my family, but it shook the world. I have relatives that currently live in Israel. I have friends that currently live in Israel. They were living in their bomb shelters for months. Didn't know if they could go back to work. I can tell you through certain channels, my father and I were able to see the full 47-minute video of what Hamas did to the 1,200 innocent people that died, that were murdered, burned, tortured, and raped. When my father and I got access to the video, my father looked at me and I looked at him and I said, "Dad, do you want to see this?" He said, "We have to see this. We have to see what those animals did to us, and we have to never forget." Just like we always say, never forget. And we always say never again means never again, and never again means now. But it was a riveting moment for my father and I to watch that entire 47-minute video. And let me tell you something, we were not gasping in glory. We were horrified. We were angry. We were upset. My father and I had nightmares for an entire week. I can still hear the screams. I can still see the look on Hamas's face, how happy they were at what they did to my people, to Americans, to Christians, and so forth. These are not human beings. These are horrible human beings. And any student that stands with them is on the side of evil. Any student that is paid to stand with this needs to go to jail, or their visas need to be revoked. Now, after October 7th, we had Gaza encampments. We had pro-Hamas people go on liberal colleges, specifically in Maryland, such as Georgetown, GW, Towson University, University of Maryland, American University, Johns Hopkins University, and then in New York, Columbia University, NYU, which is my alma mater. I have a master's from NYU. Harvard University. I attended Harvard University. I took classes there. UPenn. Those were the main ones. Oh, and MIT. I also attended MIT. I attended their Hillel. So I know all of these colleges, especially the main ones that had all these Gaza encampment centers and these pro-Hamas protesters. And I was so afraid that under a Kamala Harris Biden administration, if that man, or I should say if that woman got elected as the president, it would have gotten worse and would have continued. But President Trump made a vow to we the people that anybody that engages in anti-Semitic attacks, they go to jail. If they're on a visa, their visas get revoked and they go back to their country. And it's already been happening. Thomas Homan, the border czar, has taken action. So has Kristi Noem. And so has Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And I'm going to put up an article. It says Trump administration gets rid of 400 million, or there we go. Oh, we have to move it a little bit to the other side because I can't read it for the people. And I don't think they can see it. If I can't see it, they can't see it. There we go. It says $400 million in grants were cut from Colombia. The cuts are only the beginning, according to Trump's anti-Semitism task force. So President Trump put an anti-Semitic task force together. My friend Leo Terrell, we call him Leo 2.0. He works for the DOJ. He's a part of this anti-Semitic task force. He's also a civil rights attorney. They are going school to school, and they're pulling out federal funds and pulling out grants to all these schools that commit anti-Semitic attacks. I can tell you, when Columbia University, when their school came back after winter break, they were causing more havoc again on college campuses, and to the point where they were locking up Jewish people and Christians in libraries again. I mean, it's insane. Throwing up Palestinian flags. Again, what do these people stand for? Why are they standing with these heinous people? And then we have an article, Marco Rubio revoking visas. I'm going to put that up. There we go. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that he will, quote, revoke the visas and or green cards of Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported. And that's what's been happening. That's exactly what Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been doing. He's been revoking their visas, revoking their green cards, and getting them the hell out of our country because they're dangerous people. They're bought and paid for by George Soros, who's an anti-Jew Jew. They're bought and paid for by globalist, Marxist, socialist, communist elitists. And I'm sick of it. And the American people are sick of it. They're sick of going to school and worrying if they're going to be alive or dead. And then you have Israel Apartheid Week in colleges, which is ridiculous because Israel's not an apartheid state. And then you have schools that are passing a BDS resolution, boycott, divest, and sanction, which also states that Israel's an apartheid state. That they're terrible to the Gazans, that, you know, they don't give them anything. Israel's been giving Gazans and the Palestinians humanitarian aid for years. When Yasser Arafat was injured, the former prime minister of Israel said, have Yasser Arafat come to our hospitals. We'll take care of him. When things have happened with certain other leaders in Arab countries, the Israelis have helped them. Because we're not monsters. The Israeli people are not monsters. And they're not committing genocide against anyone. And they're not doing ethnic cleansing like the propaganda that has been spewed out this whole entire year. Actually, I should say almost 2 years already. It's insane. It's insane. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And we have a meme about Palestine is the only country. Let's put that up. I'm going to educate our viewers on that. Yeah, Palestine is the only country in the world that never existed before its occupation. That's right. Because there's no such thing as Palestine. There's no such thing. But you have a Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, that the minute she gets sworn in, on her swearing in, she drapes a Palestinian flag over her body. Then she goes into her office, takes a Post-it note, writes the word Gaza, and slaps it over the country of Israel. What the heck? And then she puts Palestine there too. There is no such thing as Palestine. It's not a country. The flag that the pro-Hamas people fly is a fake flag. They represent nothing. Again, what are they trying to prove? They're proving to us, we the people, that they don't give a damn about anybody but themselves. That they have no religion, that they don't care. They don't care about killing innocent women and children. They don't care that you're starving, that if you're a hostage, you're starving to death. They actually make the hostages say, I hate Israel, I hate the prime minister. They make the hostages spew out propaganda so the hostages are, they're alive. But they don't feed them. They make them look like they came out of concentration camps. They killed the Bebas boys with their bare hands. Are those people you want to stand with? And now people are upset. They're upset. that Marco Rubio has revoked the green cards and the visas from these pro-Hamas people, these pro-Hamas kids that came into our country illegally, by the way. As I've said in previous shows, we have illegal Syrian, illegal Afghan, illegal Lebanon refugees in the United States. That was under Joe Biden. That was first under Obama, then under Joe Biden. Former Governor Larry Hogan put them into Montgomery County. Jamie Raskin, the congressman in Maryland, in Montgomery County, he supports this. This is what all these liberal leaders support. Illegal terrorists. The Mossad, which is the Israeli FBI and CIA, they warned Joe Biden and the United States of this. They warned former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, who's Jewish. They warned former Attorney General Merrick Garland, who's Jewish. They warned former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who was Jewish, about all of these terrorists that are coming and invading the country. And they didn't give a damn. They loved it. They wanted more of it. They were okay to watch innocent Jews and innocent Christians get hurt at school by these morons. Thank God that we have President Trump to get rid of these morons. I shouldn't have to be afraid to go to my alma mater, NYU, to wear my Jewish star, to hold my head up high as I'm attending service at a Hillel. Parents should not be worried about their children going to college. Jewish children, Christian children, wearing their crosses, wearing their Jewish stars, wearing their kippahs. They shouldn't have to be worried if their son or daughter is going to come back alive, or if their son or daughter is going to be able to get out of their library without getting pummeled by these morons. You guys should be grateful. Everyone should be grateful for what President Trump and his team are doing to combat this situation. It's scary. It's very scary. You don't see Jewish people innocently killing Muslims. You don't see it. And you won't see Jewish people killing the pro-Hamas protesters on school campuses either. But they have the right to defend themselves. Remember, we have something called the Second Amendment. But everybody should be happy that these terrorists are leaving our country. Everybody should be happy that these terrorists are leaving the schools. One thing that I'm working on with the Israeli Knesset is to bring that full 47-minute video to colleges and universities so that the kids can see what Hamas did. Now, I know it's very hard to obtain. I think Israel wants to keep it intact. They don't want it to get cut and spliced, and they don't want propaganda being pushed. I totally respect that and understand that. But the colleges need to see this. The college kids need to see this. They need to see what my father and I saw. They need to feel it the way my father and I felt it. They need to feel the anger, the angst, the hurt and the pain. They need to have those nightmares. They need to relive in their head every single day the video that they watched. That's what my father and I do. We relive that moment. And we never forget, and we never will. I had the pleasure going to CPAC Shabbat. I met a lot of the hostages that came back alive and the hostage families and the victims' families. I got very close to Hirsch Goldberg Pollin's family. Their poor boy was murdered by Hamas as IDF soldiers were actually en route to get him and rescue him. And what happened to the Bibas family was horrific. I feel so bad for the father, how he has to live the rest of his life without his wife and kids, to know that his wife and children were murdered by evil terrorists. How could anybody support that? How could anybody back that and support that? Sick people. Those are sick people. Like President Trump has said, sick people. But again, President Trump, he means business. And he says if not all the hostages are released, Hamas should be completely annihilated, destroyed forever. That's the only way that the Israelis can rebuild. That's the only way America can take Mara Gaza. As President Trump said, we should own Gaza. America should own Gaza. We'll be an ally to Israel. It'll be the first time ever that the United States has a border in the Middle East with Israel. He calls it the Riviera. I think it's a great idea. Make Gaza great again. Because it's a crap hole right now. What Hamas did to Gaza is a crap hole. But remember, the majority of the Palestinians voted for that. They voted for Hamas. They knew what Hamas was. And now we have the situation in Syria where we have 2 terrorist groups that control Syria. They almost killed Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad had to flee to Russia. He's in exile in Russia right now with Vladimir Putin. Bashar al-Assad got out just in time before Al-Qaeda and ISIS took over his entire country and tried to kill him. So you have 2 terrorist groups that are running Syria right now, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And what are they doing now? They're killing innocent Syrian Christians. There's been videos of Syrian Christians saying, we don't know whether we're going to live today, die tomorrow. And let me tell you something. The IDF helps those Syrian Christians. There are IDF soldiers literally on the border between Syria and Israel. It's called the Golan Heights, Trump Heights. But there are IDF soldiers. Some of them are in Syria right now, helping out the Syrian people. A very famous woman, her name is Brigitte Gabriel. She's a Lebanese Christian. She talked about how the IDF saved her and her family as Hezbollah, which is the terrorist organization of Lebanon, was throwing bombs all over her town of Beirut. If it wasn't for the IDF, she wouldn't be alive today. And she's a staunch supporter of Israel. And the Syrian Christians, I'm telling you, they're very happy that the IDF in Israel is doing everything they can to help them. Innocent lives should not be killed. Again, terrorists have no faith. They have no mercy. They kill you. Regardless if you're the holiest man alive, they don't care. Regardless of who your father and mother is, they will kill you. If you are not like them, if you're not indoctrinated like them, they will kill you. The biggest report out today and in recent days, and David will put it up, ICE arrests leader of anti-Israel. And we'll put that up right now. I can't really, there we go, flip it. ICE arrests leader of anti-Israel Columbia University protests. So this guy was in charge. He was the leader of all those anti-Israel protests at Columbia University. Remember, the dean of Columbia University, she was okay with this moron calling for the genocide of Jews. Remember former Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York, who's trying to be our next UN ambassador. She still hasn't been confirmed. She called all those deans out from Columbia, Harvard, UPenn. She called them all out. MIT, she called them out. And she got rid of a lot of them. She said, how is calling for the genocide of Jews not against student code of conduct? And what do those morons say? Depends on the context. Well, this moron led the protests. I could call him something else, but I won't because I have children that watch this show. And I'm a lady, so I won't do that. But this moron, this ignoramus, actually, I wouldn't even call him an ignoramus because he knew exactly what he was doing. This corrupt SOB who was bought and paid for by terrorists. George Soros, I know for a fact, was behind this crap. Led anti-Israel Columbia University protests. And what did Secretary of State Marco Rubio do? He revoked his visa and said, you're out of here. Basically, you're fired. You're out of here. But people are in uproars about it. Some people think that he shouldn't have, his visa shouldn't have been revoked. He was expressing his freedom of speech. This is not freedom of speech. Calling for the genocide of Jews is hate speech. Elise Stefanik proved it. I know the difference. I've even done talks about the difference between freedom of speech and hate speech. It's very important that we know the difference. Calling for the genocide of Jews is not freedom of speech. And also on Columbia University, we saw that kids were taking stakes and hurting innocent Jews and innocent Christians on campus. I saw it. We all saw it. I couldn't believe it was Columbia University. I went to Columbia University, Hillel. I took classes at JTS Theological Seminary, which is literally right next door to Columbia University. And to see that was disgusting. I called upon the Jewish Theological Seminary to do something. I was like, how can you witness this and not do anything? Some took action, some didn't. Some big no names who would give money to Columbia University and Harvard, they pulled their money out. And I called them and I said, thank you for pulling the money out. Can you put your money into pro-Jewish organizations to combat this crap? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And then here in Maryland, where I am, second residence, we have pro-Hamas protests all the time, particularly in Montgomery County and in Howard County and Prince George. And we actually have something, I'll pull that up, or Damon will pull that up too. There it goes. In Howard and Prince George's County, sanctuary policies prohibits any local cooperation with ICE agents, no matter the crime committed. Policies in line with new guidance from Maryland's Attorney General, that he's a DEI hire, noting detainers are, quote, requests only. Local officers are not obligated to honor them. And in fact, violating constitutional rights by doing so. So basically what it's saying is it's okay because they're a sanctuary city. It's okay to have illegal terrorists. It's okay to combat President Trump's executive orders. It's okay. And if the police do something about it, they're going against the Constitution because they're hurting illegal immigrants' freedom of speech, freedom of expression, their rights. Illegals don't have rights. They don't have rights. They're illegals. When you become a legal citizen of this country, then you have rights as an American. When you are an illegal, you have no driver's license, you can't obtain a credit card, you have no rights. Until you become a citizen of your country, you have no rights. You have no rights to health care. You have no rights to a job. Until you become a legal citizen, you have no rights. That's why you're called an illegal. It's called the law. When you continue to break the law, you will go down. This is Maryland, everybody. And Howard County has a huge organization called HOCO Free Palestine. I've seen it. I've seen their rallies, their events. And we have something called CARE, which is a terrorist organization. Their headquarters are in Washington, D.C. Their headquarters have been there since 1994. CARE is all over this nation. Myself and others made the effort with the Annapolis delegation to remove CARE from the Anti-Hate Commission permanently. The fact that CARE was even in the Anti-Hate Commission is asinine to me. Thank God that we have law enforcement now that are part of that task force, the Anti-Hate Commission, excuse me. But the fact that CARE was even involved in that is shameful. With Chandri, Miss Chandri, who heads up CARE in Maryland, she testified before me. She wouldn't admit that there was babies that were beheaded on October 7th. She lied about everything in regards to October 7th. But she blamed Israel. She blamed the Jews, of course. Said we committed genocide against her people. This is the propaganda that's going on. And then we have teachers in Montgomery County that are a part of CARE that teach propaganda. They teach that Israel is the enemy and that Palestine, they're the good guys. They're the victims. Poor Palestinians. We've heard that for years. We've heard it for years. That's why we need a change up and a shake up. That's why it's very important that we remove anybody that tries to hurt innocent Americans, but also that we remove these illegals, these illegal criminals, I should say, these illegal terrorists in our country that are pushing their propaganda and hurting innocent students. The fact that these Gaza encampments went on for over a year is a disgrace. The fact that Joe Biden, his administration, with Jews in his cabinet, such as Mayorkas and Blinken and Merrick Garland, allow this to continue is also a disgrace. Because I'm Jewish, they give me a bad name. I told you, I told a lot of my viewers, and I'll tell you this again, I have a concept, hashtag not my Jew, hashtag never a Jew, hashtag not a true Jew, and it's true. I will call anybody out that goes against the Jewish people, especially Jewish people that go against their own, such as Bernie Sanders and Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler and Chuck Schumer. These guys take a knee to Palestinians, but when it comes to Israel, they don't do a damn thing. They don't help at all. They claim that they help. They do a Stand with Israel rally in DC, but then what do? They allow Iran to continue. They allow Iran to become this enterprise of terror by not going after Ayatollah Khomeini and the mullahs. And I can tell you, I've spoken to a lot of Iranians. They don't like what's going on in their country. There's actually still a lot of Iranian Jews. They want an uprising to happen so that the terrorists in Iran are destroyed. These were the same terrorists that were in charge of October 7th with UNRWA, and Qatar was involved as well. Qatar is now in negotiation with the United States to kind of change their tune on who they support. Russia does rely on Iran a lot in terms of oil. But I can tell you that Russia does not support these Iranian terrorists. And I know for a fact that Vladimir Putin has been working with Bibi Netanyahu throughout the years to make sure there's peace between their countries and to keep Bashar al-Assad in check. When Vladimir Putin came in and took over and put Bashar al-Assad in check because Barack Hussein Obama did not, there was peace between Syria and Israel. But like I said, it's very sad when you have terrorist organizations that creep in because people don't understand the real havoc that they do until it comes knocking on your door. So I challenge these students that love Hamas, that say, free, free Palestine, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I challenge them to go to Syria right now. I challenge them to go to where the Taliban is. I challenge them to go to where Hezbollah is. Well, Hezbollah is pretty much destroyed. I challenge them to go to where Hamas is, Al-Aqsa Smarter Brigade, Islamic Jihad. See if they're still friends with them. See if they still enjoy hanging out with them. As the terrorists are showing their murders on their cameras and on screen. The Queers for Palestine, that was also a movement that was insane. If you're a Palestinian, you're gay, they throw you over a cliff. They throw you over a building. But we had Queers for Palestine. They supported the terrorists. And I challenged them. I said, Queers for Palestine. Go to Gaza. Go to Lebanon with Hezbollah. Hang out with the Taliban. See if they love you. See if they will embrace you with open arms. They'll cook you dinner. They'll let you sleep in their bed. They'll be your best friend. You'd be dead in 5 seconds. Same thing with the Bella Hadids and the Gigi Hadids of the world. And the Selena Gomez's and the Taylor Swifts giving money to Hamas. Giving money to terrorist organizations. I'm so happy that President Trump took initiative here to cancel the $400 million grant to Columbia University, but also to revoke the visa of this leader that was pushing anti-Israel protests at Columbia University. And there's a lot of them out there. And Thomas Homan, the border czar, is looking into it. So is Kristi Noem. Thomas Homan, I can tell you, is a very good friend to the Jews. He went to Israel with my Jexit organization. And Sarah Carter, who's an investigative reporter, was with Thomas Homan as well. I mean, they were there for almost 2 weeks. They did a whole documentary. Thomas Homan actually studied the borders of Israel. And he said, how can we get the same borders in Israel? Or how can we get the same borders, in the United States we have in Israel? Because there's a very safe Green Line border between Ramallah and Israel. Between Syria and Israel. And we're getting that border safe between Israel and Gaza. And we're getting the border safe between Israel and Lebanon as well. But Israel has some very strong borders. And he looked at that and he examined it. And he said, we need this for our country. Because Israel has an extreme vetting system. If you're an Arab and you want to become an Arab Israeli, you go through an extreme vetting process. It's a hardcore, extreme vetting process. I've talked to the people that do the vetting process. And I know that Republican presidents over the years have said that America needs to have that extreme vetting process like they do in Israel. And to do E-Verify, it's very important. But again, we can't have people pushing back on this. You can't say pro-Palestinian, oh, you're hurting his freedom of speech. What he did was call for the genocide of Jews and caused a lot of havoc on campuses and made Jewish people so scared that they had to work and go to school remotely, which is not what you want as a college student. In college, you're supposed to meet your spouse. You're supposed to go to Hillels and events. You can't do that if you're sitting at home behind a computer. We had that crap with COVID. It killed the dating scene. Men and women don't know how to date anymore because of COVID and because of online dating. You have to be face to face with the person. You have to really get to know that person, touch their skin, kiss them, know if you have some chemistry. My father said, he always says this, if you can put your toothbrush next to the guy's toothbrush or your toothpaste next to the guy's toothpaste, you know that he's the one for you. But you can't experience that if you're talking to him via computer. I mean, digital babies do not exist. You can't have a baby through a computer. Unless Elon Musk is working on that. Or some AI guy's working on that. But I don't think that exists. But again, don't be afraid to combat this. Don't be afraid to call out what you see is wrong. If you see something, say something. And again, a lot of people were scared under the Biden and Kamala Harris administration with these Gaza encampments going on. And I can implore you and I can tell you, and I don't speak on behalf of the president, but I know for a fact that he's doing everything he can with his new cabinet to make sure that no student will be harmed again. And if they are, there will be hell to pay. Well, this was a great 2 hours. Again, we covered a lot. We covered what happened with President Trump today, how he bought a Tesla with Elon Musk at the White House, and how he got Ukraine to sit down at the table and have this and push a 30-day ceasefire with Russia. And we also had a wonderful guest, Colonel Daryl Bow, and you can follow him at it's right here, at Colonel_Riddle, RIDDLE, at Colonel_Riddle, RIDDLE. We will have him back on the show again. He talked all about election integrity in Virginia. We followed up with not having men in women's sports. And then we finished up a great half hour talking about combating anti-Semitism on college campuses and making sure that anybody that we know that was an anti-Semite on any of these liberal college campuses, and they have visas, their visas are getting revoked. They're going back to their country. Anybody that started any type of anti-Semitic riots on college campuses, their visas are being revoked. And again, this has been a great show. I will be back Thursday night, same time, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's going to be a jam-packed 2-hour show. We have another wonderful guest. He works for Guns of America, and we're going to talk all about the 2A with him. He's an awesome, awesome guy, and we will. I'll let you know throughout the next couple days about him and what he's going to discuss. And I just want to let you know we have a wonderful network. We have another wonderful show called The Jersey Shore with Damon Galdo. It's Monday nights, also 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., as well as Friday nights, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We are starting our all-star 5 people show, The Pulse. That's going to be starting in a couple weeks. It's going to be Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. But don't forget to follow us. Please follow us at America's Pulse Network on Rumble, at America's Pulse Network on X, at America's Pulse Network on YouTube. We're going to be heading to Facebook at the end of April at America's Pulse Network. And don't forget to follow myself, Alexandra Levine on Facebook, at Alexandra Levi20 on X, at AR Levine 85 on Rumble, at AR Levine 85 on True Social, at AR Levine 85 on Instagram, at Levine Consulting on YouTube. And I think that's about it. That's a lot for my social media. Also, again, if you're interested in running for office, please go to my website, levineconsulting.co. That's levineconsulting.co, and book a consultation with me today. And again, the reason you listen and the reason you watch is you are no idiot.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, Elena, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.